Bano, bar mitzvotav, mitzvano,
Ivano,
divrei
Torah.
Torah.
Amen.
You know, it hasn't rained here in 24 hours. I'm
You miss it?
to do with myself, but it's
Think
very
of
nice.
all the money we've saved on watering our lawns. Boy, that was something.
Yeah, that's
We're
great.
saving water, more important.
No, it's our water bill we save.
The
Yeah.
water bill got saved, yeah.
So a little bit of calendar. Monday, January 23rd. Risa, maybe you can help me on detail. Monday, January 23rd, 7 p.m. at the Lumley Theater or something. Do you remember what the program is?
Yes. Jim Ruskin invited us all. Can you hear me, Rabbi?
Yes.
Jim Ruskin invited us all. I think we need to pay. And it's an Israeli movie that is highly regarded. I cannot remember the name. It's in the email.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, it's on the calendar. And for those of you who want to hang out, Risa is dragging me. So we'll be able to hang out together. And then Wednesday, January 25th is our next current events meeting. The good news is that the world is falling apart at a fairly stable rate, and so we always will have something good to discuss. And the session on Black Hebrews was just terrific, just terrific. I absolutely enjoyed the conversation, even the preparation. Any other, Cindy, any other calendar event, or do you want to talk, or Susie, somebody about Friday evening?
Yeah, Susie will talk about that. We had our Ukraine presentation the other day. 123 signed up, about half actually came. And we're going to do Prague in March, and we're continuing with our monthly happy hours, and Susie will talk about Krumens.
May I just say that I thought Steve Windmuller did a beautiful job on the.
Excellent.
I thought he was terrific. Susie?
I'm inviting everybody. All you need to do is let me know at least by Wednesday evening so I can tell them at Froman's that we're coming. We say some prayers, we have challah, we have wine, and we have good schmoozing. And this is my dear friend Mickey, who is new to the synagogue. So she's joining us today. Hi.
Welcome.
Hi,
Thank you.
Do you have a last name?
Lazarus. I met you last night, Dr. Davids.
Yes.
Rabbi Davids. Yeah.
Yes,
I said,
we
yeah.
were together last night. That is correct. That is correct.
And the Shabbat before I saw you as well.
Susie, I greeted you last night, right? So that
Yes.
I watched on Zoom because I don't
we're
want
not
to
going to talk about that. Okay.
welcome aboard, Mickey.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything else? Let's see. I haven't identified everybody here. I admire Eric is here. Eric, are you still in Florida? You're muted. You're muted.
Yes, I'm still in Florida. I love it here. I don't have to deal with the cold weather in New York. And I'm glad, and you know something? This helps attending this class. I'm grateful for, because I'm a solo ager, and I think it's gathering with friends, which I need desperately, because I'm the only one surviving of my friends. Thank you very much
Good.
for letting me in. Capiche?
Capiche.
Capiche. Natalie, Shabbat Shalom. Hi. Hi, good to see you. Ray, good to see your name, not you. Barbara, I see Barbara. I see Joy. I see Karen, Brad, and Tamara. Okay, that's excellent. Howard, what? What did I say wrong already? What?
We're very happy, very excited at a milestone that our oldest grandson is now in Israel on his birthright trip. So it's
Oh, wow.
yeah,
It's great.
he's going to do some independent travel after that too. So
Wonderful.
time moves on.
I think that's great. How old is he?
18.
18. Are you listening to that, Maya? Grandson, 18 years old, Israel.
Independent travel afterwards.
And I guess, Maya, he made the arrangements more than a day in advance. But
No, they
I'm
remain
not talking about your brother.
It's cold. It's cold. He has to make the arrangements or he won't be on the trip.
I know.
Okay. Yeah, I wrote him a note that April is filled. So now it's May at the earliest.
It really is, it pushed already.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay. So, Howard, thank you. You've caused a family rift in the Davids Levin family, and I am very grateful to you. Thank you. Okay. But that's great. And is he staying afterwards on his own or with some other people?
Yes, he's going to travel for a couple of weeks and see if he can pull that off on his own.
Fantastic. Okay. Any other checking in? That's a good one. Any other checking in things happening in your lives? If not, we will get to
the movie is Let It Be Morning.
Okay. Okay. I see Mara. Okay. Tomorrow I saw. Okay. We're good. We're getting all set. It's terrific. So we are in chapter 7, verse 1 of Exodus in the Women's Commentary 337, in the Plout 384, chapter 7, verse 1. And
Chapter 7, verse 1. Okay.
Chapter 7, verse 1.
I gotcha.
And I'm supposed to do this because, God only knows. Hello out there into recording land, people I don't see, but I'm really glad you're with us. And if you're enjoying it, send me an email or something so I'll know you're out there. But you're more than welcome, and it's exciting.
Will you say the page again? What is the page in the Plout?
In the Plout 384.
384. Thank you.
Okay. And here's chapter 7, verse 1. The Eternal replied to Moses, "See, I place you in the role of God to Pharaoh with your brother Aaron as your prophet." Stop. We're going to spend 6 weeks on that verse. It deserves it, actually. Vayomer now Moshe, God said to Moses, "Re'eh, behold the Taticha Elohim. I have set you." The translation says, "in the role of God." Understand that translation is commentary. It doesn't say in the Hebrew, "in the role of God." It says, "I have set you as Elohim." I have set you as Elohim. For Pharaoh, and Aaron, your brother, will be your prophet. Now, if that isn't a series of very confusing and difficult things, nothing would be. Aaron is to be a prophet. Let's take the easy one. What does the word prophet mean for Aaron in this case? What's Aaron's job? Okay, what's Aaron's job in this situation? Okay, I see Effie and then Donna and then Steve.
To be the spokesman for Moses because of Moses's speech impediment.
Okay, yes, sort of spokesman. Go ahead, Donna.
Prophet means that you predict what's going to take place, you prophesy, and that's what he did to tell Pharaoh what's going to happen.
It's very interesting that you say that, because the primary skill of the prophet, by the way, I have to mention, Anybody seriously interested in understanding a perspective on prophecy, the book by Abraham Joshua Heschel entitled The Prophet. It is a must read for anyone who seriously wants to think about what a prophet is and does. My memory of this is that predicting the future is not the prophet's major job. The prophet's major job, well, I'm going to go on. Steve, go ahead. Steve Miller?
He's muted.
I'm on tour study, but.
I was going to say, I think the prophet's major job is actually to warn, to see cause and effect and let people know how their actions will impact the future. My question is, does Elohim ever mean anything else? Because
Okay, we're not on Elohim yet. We're on Navi. We will get to
we were on Elohim before.
Yeah, but we're starting off with prophet. And that
Okay.
because that's the easy thing.
All right, that I gave my thoughts on prophet.
Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you. Please.
Is a prophet is somebody who explains what's happening in the moment and how that will affect the future. That's how I always thought of it.
And that's certainly, in the ballpark. Everyone is in and around the ballpark. When you read Heschel, you read the prophet channeling God's passion, God's concerns, and speaking God's thoughts and feelings. What you don't get is the prophet being Joe. The prophet, when functioning, is functioning as someone who expresses God's concerns, warnings, issues, pain. The prophet is not a predictor. The prophet doesn't speak volitionally, willingly. The prophet must deliver the message of God, and that message is both emotional as well as words, logic, and so forth. So Heschel will make a big focus on the pathos of what goes on with the prophet, the serious pain of the prophet. He references Jeremiah in chapter 1, who cries out, may I, my intestines are inflamed. Excuse me again. My intestines are inflamed with this message that I must deliver. And in a sense, it hurts like hell, but I must deliver it. So the prophet, if Aaron is Moses's prophet, what's Aaron's job? Since it says your brother Aaron will be the prophet, your prophet. So what's Aaron's job here?
To go to the Pharaoh and have them let them go.
To get
Moses goes to Pharaoh. Aaron goes with Moses. As far as we know, even though it doesn't always mention it, Aaron is always there. Moses is Elohim. And Steve, I promise we'll get to that. Aaron is Navi, prophet. What's Aaron's job? Risa.
To give God's word to Moses so that Moses can speak to the people.
It's the reverse.
Yeah.
If Moses is Elohim and Aaron is his prophet, what's Aaron's job?
To talk, to speak.
To listen to Moses and speak for him.
To speak for him.
Speak for him.
Mediates.
Moses had a speech impediment. He didn't want to talk.
All that is a yes. My image is, and I'm open to, because this is not firmly fixed. Even as the prophet relates to the people, the emotion, the pain, the passion, the message of God. So Aaron is to take what Moses is putting forward and share the pain, the message, the words of Moses. Now, I'm going to stop with that, and tomorrow, corrective?
No, not corrective, but Aaron is portrayed as eloquent earlier, so that Aaron is a communicator. The messages come to God, from God to Moses, but to be able to communicate it effectively, that is Aaron's job. He's good with words, and he knows how to convey things effectively.
Okay, and all I'm adding from Heschel, if you will, it's going to be more than the words. It's going to be the affect and the pain and the expression. It's not just a literal transmission of words. Cool. This is prophet. Now, even translating the word prophet, Navi, is interesting because it has meanings of babble and burble and not exactly clear. But Navi is not a future predictor, is a conduit of communication. Okay? By the way, conduit comes in another place in the Torah as well. At the time of the threefold benediction, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you, it says explicitly, this was the blessing that God sent through Aaron. Aaron doesn't bless the people. Aaron conveys the blessing from God. Same kind of a thing, conduit. I'm going to stop there and then we're going to talk about God. Eric?
It sounded like Aaron was the spokesman for God through Moses, and Aaron was the agent of God because he was like a political commentator. He was giving editorial comments of what's happening at the present time. Like I was listening to a talk show host, and they seemed to be a spokesman for some cause or whatever. But that was what I can gather when we read Isaiah chapter 1. They were telling.
Yep.
What little I remember. Bye.
But the idea of spokesman is there. I try to figure what it was like to be Moses in this encounter. Moses and Aaron are confronting Pharaoh. Pharaoh speaks to Moses, and somehow Aaron is responding. And it's seems clumsy. I'm left with that feeling without any ability
It
to.
was, I want to ask a question. Did Aaron know Egyptian language and Moses knew Egyptian language? Like English is a second language to some people, so they have trouble interpreting English from their own language. They go for a two-step process. They go from their language into translating, so they have a two-step process in learning the language.
Very true. Very true. For Moses, you might even assume Egyptian was his primary language, or at least the first language. We're going to move on. I see. Okay, I see Mara. I see Sukasa. Steve.
So I have a question. If we accept that the Torah was written by a number of different authors, is there any sense here that this part of the Torah becomes a justification for the acceptance of prophets?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't. Okay, Tamara?
Yeah, I don't think there was a problem accepting prophets in general. Prophets were a common phenomenon. So I don't think the Torah had to do something special to make that happen. What's unusual is that the priest, the one who's going to be a priest, is now assigned to function as a prophet. But I don't think there's a special issue here about that. It's a wonderful question to ask, but in this case, I think it's a non-controversial moment on that issue. The big controversy is what we're gonna hear about in a minute, I'm sure.
Okay, so there is a statement later on that says, "Lo navi anochi v'lo ben navi." I'm not a prophet, nor am I a member of a prophetic guild. So the prophets were actually, and to a certain extent, common enough to be professional. I mean, like, what did you do today? Oh, I went before the people and told them God's word. Oh, okay, honey, what do you want for dinner? I didn't think it had to be proven. Okay.
May I ask a question?
Sukasa, then Steve.
I was just going to say Moses had a stutter. So maybe that's part of the reason that Aaron became the spokesman for him, so that the people would really hear what God was saying.
I am not altogether certain, Sukasa, that Moses had a stutter.
Well, I know, but they say it.
Yeah, well, no. I'm even trying to translate the Hebrew when it describes it. Kved peh. I'm just not sure it means stutter, or it means a lack of ability to be articulate.
Yes, agreed.
But stutter is what ordinarily people say. I just am not sure. He wasn't. He had a hard time expressing himself in public. And yes, definitely that. Steve, and I've got a bunch of people. I see Howard. I see Brad. Yes.
My translation for Elohim in my interlinear is master. So the first thing is, does Elohim ever mean anything other than God?
Okay, we're honestly gonna get there.
And secondly, apart from that, I don't see how Moses is even acting as God vis-a-vis Pharaoh. Pharaoh is never going to worship or pray to Moses. He might be acting as God vis-a-vis Aaron, and how he's standing in, because Aaron doesn't have the direct connection to God, but he does to Moses. But that's not the relationship to Pharaoh.
Okay, we're getting there. I'm sorry that it's hard to separate. This verse is huge. God is to Moses as Moses is to Aaron. Okay? That's the pattern. That's the paradigm. God is to Moses as Moses is to Aaron. Aaron is the prophet of Moses. Moses is the prophet of God. And we're going to be, this is not that it's resolved. We're just going to move on. Brad Howard.
Rabbi, coming back to your definition of the prophet as a conduit, that sort of sounds a bit like an empty vessel, as almost a ventriloquist with the dummy. And it makes me think of, in Greek lore, you've got the Oracle of Delphi with the Pythia, who maintained the oracle and through whom the oracle spoke. So it is a kind of a trope in the ancient world to have these conduits, these empty vessels through whom the gods spoke.
Thank you. I thank you for that. I think the difference might be, but then again, I'm strange on this. The prophet cared deeply for the message that the prophet had to deliver. That is not the same as a ventriloquist dummy. Charlie McCarthy. Anyone remember Charlie McCarthy? Anyone remember that? This is just a little... Oh, God, am I old?
Mortimer Snerd.
Not as old as I am.
Edgar, what was his name? Edgar
Bergen.
Edgar Bergen and Charlie
Oh, wow.
McCarthy.
And
Yeah.
Mortimer Snerd. Remember Mortimer Snerd?
And Mortimer Snerd, yes. These Mortimer Snerd and Charlie McCarthy didn't care about the message that Edgar Bergen was giving. But Moses, Jeremiah, Isaiah, these people cared about the message. So it's not quite the same. And the oracle delivered the cold-faced oracle. I'm not aware that the oracle was upset by a given message. So it's the same, but it's kind of not the same. I want to move on. I really do. Howard? No, Howard?
Yeah, I'm here. So the book by Richard Elliott Friedman that talks about the sources in the Torah, I've been looking at that, and it says that what we're reading now is the P source and also a little bit of the E source, and that those sources never use the word prophet, with the one exception that we just had, that it says it's used figuratively, that Aaron is the prophet to Moses, whereas the other sources use prophet. So I don't know.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Donna, then Susie.
I just wanted to ask Tamara, if it's okay, what does it mean by someone who makes a statement and then that statement comes to pass? What is that called?
I could just say this, Donna, you're still pushing on the question of, is the job of the prophet to tell the future? And the answer overwhelmingly is no.
Yeah.
But to explore the consequences of behavior and to deliver those messages. There's a difference there, but it's not. The prophet's message is rooted in a set of values that God is transmitting through the prophet. Because of this is what awaits you. But it isn't just like a fortune teller.
Oh, yeah.
To
Thank you.
predict. I want to go ahead. Have any other question out there?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, wasn't the main purpose of the communication of Moses and Aaron to the Pharaoh rather than to the people?
There were two. Moses and Aaron spoke to Pharaoh. Moses and Aaron spoke to the people. Not at the same time.
Right, so wasn't the priority first to the Pharaoh to encourage him to let my people go?
One would assume that Moses and Aaron went into Egypt and got to see Pharaoh with a pretty direct connection because of Moses's connection to the royal house.
Right.
But while in Egypt, Moses had to work the people as well. In terms of, I don't know, in terms of priority, I think that it's kind of like when an Israeli prime minister is invited to this country, that person will go to Congress or meet with the president or whatever, and also, while here, meet with leaders of the community.
Thank you.
In that order. I want to move ahead to God, if it's okay. All right? Okay, now that we took care of the easy one, namely, Aaron is the prophet. We sort of have a sense, and I get channel, but it's a channel that is invested in the message. It's not just a piece of plumbing. The prophet carries a message, but feels the message. Aaron is doing that for Moses. I think Tamara's notion that I had not thought about it, but Tamara does that to me often, that Aaron, the priest, is here a prophet. And I that's just something that could take another week to talk about what all that means. Now let's go. God said to Moses, behold, netaticha Elohim. I have set you Elohim. To me, there's a little bit of language missing. I would have preferred if God, when dictating out the Torah, would have said, netaticha ke Elohim. I have made you like God. Doesn't say that. Netaticha Elohim. And in reading that language, it's a little bit, to me, it's a little bit clumsy. Netaticha Elohim leFaro. I have given you God to Pharaoh. Now, Steve Miller 5 or 6 times has asked, is the word Elohim used in other ways in the Torah? Answer, yes. One way in which Elohim is used is as judge. Judges. Judge. There is rabbinic discussion. What's all this business between Elohim and Adonai? You know, what does all this mean, Elohim and Adonai? So the Bible scholars, of whom I am not part, a Bible scholar would say, well, there's the E code and the J code, and there's the Elohim when God is referred to as Elohim, and there's the J when God is referred to as Adonai. Terrific. But Elohim means, in some contexts, judge. So that the rabbis will later say that there are 2 aspects to God. God is Elohim, God is Adonai, God is judge, and God is the lover, passionate, concerned individual for the people. That when the Torah speaks of Elohim, it is God functioning as judge. When the Torah speaks of Adonai, it's God functioning in a loving capacity. This is not always the case, but it is a way of looking at it. I have set you, God, to Pharaoh, and Aaron, your brother, will be your prophet. If you read the whole sentence, if Aaron is to be your prophet, then it's okay to read, behold, I have set you in God's place to Pharaoh, and Aaron will be your prophet. The rabbis say, many rabbis say, Moses was here to judge Pharaoh. He is judging Pharaoh and then giving the sentence. The sentence comes with the plagues. The sentence comes with all that follows. Let me stop. This is not easy. There's another, and I suddenly not stopped. How did Pharaoh view Pharaoh? Joe Pharaoh, sitting on the throne. How did Joe Pharaoh view himself?
As God.
As God.
As God.
So Pharaoh is God. And I see another level here. Pharaoh sees Pharaoh as a god. Moses is being told, you are going head to head with a god, and you are in a god's role. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, thank you. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rabbi, remember when Moses threw the rod down and Pharaoh threw the rod down and Moses's rod turned into a snake that ate up all of Pharaoh's stuff? I mean, you know, that was a good example of God is here and it's not Pharaoh.
Yeah, well, was Moses portraying Moses as a god over again? In other words, everyone portrays often Pharaoh is God against the real God. Moses is taking God's role here. Is Moses a God against Pharaoh? And that means that the parallel with Aaron speaking Moses's word is complete. God is to Moses, Moses to Aaron. As I said, this isn't easy. This isn't easy. Steve, I'll take a couple of comments.
He's only God vis-a-vis from Pharaoh's perspective, because that's how Pharaoh sees the world, and Pharaoh won't see God. So he puts Moses in there to be essentially his stand-in that Pharaoh can relate to, because Pharaoh doesn't understand this amorphous no-see God. So that's what Moses is to Pharaoh, but I don't think that Moses to himself or to Aaron believe Moses to be God rather than the person to whom God communicates.
Steve, you do understand that every great Jewish leader is humble. I'm so not going into that one. Okay. Moses would not ever refer or think of himself as God. But in that setting, I see two bulls going at each other. And Pharaoh wouldn't lower Pharaoh's self-image by doing battle with an ordinary mortal. If there is a battle, it's God to God.
But doesn't Pharaoh always consider himself more powerful than Moses until the end?
Pharaoh, remember, we're dealing with a polytheistic world. There are a bunch of gods around there. The most important god, of course, is a cat, but set that aside.
Yeah.
The
That's so good, Rabbi.
Moses couldn't stand there as the emissary, the ambassador of somebody else and go head to head with Pharaoh. But Moses, if in Pharaoh's view, is a manifestation of God, then it's a battle. I'm in trouble here. I am in trouble. And it's very hard. The language is not helpful. It says, Netaticha Elohim lepharaoh. A simple letter before the word Elohim would have made things a lot easier. Okay, Rebecca.
Wasn't Pharaoh considered a prince in the, wasn't Moses considered a prince in Pharaoh's court? So he already had elevated status, correct?
Well, as I said in a brilliant sermon last week, Moses looked at Pharaoh as his adoptive grandfather. If Pharaoh's daughter yanked Moses out of the water and brought him home like an adopted puppy, then Pharaoh is kind of like the step grandfather. So, does that mean that Moses growing up was like the princes of the UK, Willie, and I don't know. I don't want to go there.
Bye, Bay. Bye, George.
He considered it, but he fled. Moses threw all that away. I doubt that in any sense Moses was standing before Pharaoh as a prince. Not at that point. Not at that point. I see Maya. Please, Maya.
A way that makes it easier for me to view this, the only way that we can have any sort of acknowledgement that Pharaoh would be willing to go head to head with somebody other than another god would be in the acknowledgement of Moses's position over a smaller people. And the only way that we can explain, very similarly to the way that when we have a well-rounded understanding of something that makes perfect sense to us, and we try to introduce that concept to somebody who's never heard of this idea before, we turn it into an analogy or a story that makes most sense to them so that they start to see the picture better. And the way that I can see this is Hashem is saying to Moses, when you go head to head with Pharaoh, the way that you explain your purpose, the reason you deserve to be talking to him in the first place and you deserve to be judging him in the first place is because you are to the Jewish people, Moses is to the Jewish people as Pharaoh is to his own people. He leads them, he guides them, he is trying to be a savior and be the person that everybody needs of them. And in my head, if that is explained to Pharaoh, then Pharaoh can at least acknowledge that Moses is even worth talking to. I don't know if that.
No, that's great. No,
that's very wise.
The analogy is good, and my
She's
only
brilliant.
concern,
She's brilliant.
My only concern is I never really do find in the Torah a moment when Moses comes before the people and is acknowledged as their leader. I don't know if that's there. Oh, Kevin is on the phone. Oh, hi, Kevin. So Moses then goes and talks to the people, and they're pretty, I think, Maya, the proper description is they're pretty pissed with him. That big deal, you came, now life is harder for us. I don't remember a time, and it could be my weakness, in which the people acclaim Moses. He's just there doing it. There are pieces missing in the story. Wouldn't it have been fun to know, oh, look, who's back in town? It's Moses, the guy who fled after he killed the Egyptian. Hi, Moses, what do you want? How did Moses become where is Mona? Steve? Where are you, Steve? I have to find your face.
He's here.
Okay, Steve, there you are. I need you to tell Mona, I would like to see a script of Moses meeting the Israelites on his return. How does he do it? How does Moses, the fleeing felon, I made an alliteration, the fleeing felon, come back and just assume national leadership the way Maya wants him to do? So that's on Mona.
Well, he doesn't here, but he does later when everybody comes to him. He's the only one to resolve problems, to tell people what to do. And then he has to set up a system where within the tribes, he delegates some of the responsibility to them. So there is a time when the people do acknowledge him.
Yes, but that's already after the Exodus from Egypt. That's already after everything.
Yeah, but I thought you said anywhere in the Torah.
Okay. I'll give you that. But it doesn't help with Pharaoh. Not at the beginning. We only have 5 people who want to talk. Okay. I see Effie, Brad, and we'll go on. Somebody help keep track for me. I'm going to lose this. Effie?
Yes. The Pharaoh is in a position where he knows he's a mortal, but still believes that he's a god. So he believes that a mortal could be God. And so I think he has some idea that Moses might be in the same position vis-a-vis the Jews as he's with the Egyptians.
I like that. And I hate to say it, Effie, you know that agreeing with you hurts.
Agreeing with you, me? Agreeing with you hurts me.
Yeah, okay. So we already have shared pain. But I like what you said. That again, there are a lot of parallels. God to Moses, Moses to Aaron, Moses and Pharaoh. Yes, we can certainly do that. I see Brad, and I'm losing your name. I'm sorry. Next to Susie,
Mickey, like the guy at Disney.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse, like Mickey Mouse. Mickey.
Yeah, well, I thought that Pharaoh doesn't really begin to accept Moses's power or place until he demonstrates by turning his staff into the snake or those kind of things, that Pharaoh begins to really see his power. I didn't think he had really accepted him as an equal before that.
I think that you're again, Moses is going through a process of validation. And it's not just the staff into the serpent, it's the, blood in the Nile, frogs here, frogs there, frogs everywhere. Eventually, Pharaoh gets the point, but a little bit late. We are running. This is awful. This stuff is complicated. I see Brad. I see Maya. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, Rabbi, first of all, I love the grandfather-grandson discussion, because I was thinking about that myself, is what kind of additional dimension does that give to the story when you think of it in those terms? But the question I have is, yes, Elohim, one of the many names of God. Why does Pharaoh have two names? Why is he sometimes Pharaoh and sometimes Paro, as in verse 1 and verse 2 here?
That's so easy. Thank you. That's a grammatical thing. To put it into English that I could understand, dotted letters occur at the beginning of a syllable. So it's le pharaoh because the dot falls out of the pay. But if it's at the beginning of a syllable, it's paro. That's all. I am so grateful to you. I can answer a question, and there's no need for follow-up. Yes.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Oh, that was wonderful. Okay, Maya Donna.
I'll just quickly clarify that I'm not expecting the Jewish people to look at Moses and say, oh, you're equivalent to our Pharaoh. But similar to the explanation that you gave as to Donna as to why a prophet doesn't just tell the future, this explanation of what Moses has to offer as a human being is establishing that over the course of events, this is what you will mean to the people. And at some point throughout your story, you don't have to look at the Jewish people and say, don't worry, I'll be like your Pharaoh. But over the course of events, you will reach this position. And similar to the way that you are my prophet, Aaron is yours. And that in his establishment of his position as Moses of the Israelites, Pharaoh will see him in such a way because he has proved himself by that point.
I'm there. I see the evolution of identity. I see that. And now, Tamara, I hate it when you come up with facts. Clarification, Elohim is a noun, Adonai is a name. Pharaoh is a title, not a name. I mean, we never do refer to Pharaoh as Joe, okay? He's not Joe, he's Pharaoh. But Pharaoh is a title. The Pharaoh would be ordinary. But I have trouble tomorrow, and I will get to you, please. Yeah, absolutely. Yud Hey Vav Hey. Adonai, you say, is a name. Isn't it also a verb? Okay. Okay, now back to you. I needed to say that.
It's a verbal name. I mean, it's a name that's constructed as a verb, and we can do that. But the fact that Pharaoh is a title and Elohim is a title strengthen what you just said about how the storyteller positions them as one title against the other. So it makes your case even stronger.
I'm so willing to stop the class right there. That would be so, but okay, I see two hands, and folks, when I said that this is one sentence, and Effie will be mad that we only did one sentence, but we didn't even do the sentence. There's so much in this sentence. Brad, Donna. I lost Brad. Okay.
No, Rabbi, that was from before. Sorry.
Okay, hold your hand. I'm Donna.
Okay, I have a really totally different question to ask you about the Torah and all these examples and through history, how God declared who he is, the one and only living, true living God of the Israelites, of the Hebrews. And do you think that in the days to come, all these examples of Moses and Aaron and Deborah and the great things that happened in history to deliver us through God's word and people that God used, that this will happen again in the future for us to deliver Israel? God's going to appoint someone to do what Moses, I mean, in the same way, analogy of what happened in the past are given to us as examples to see what's coming in the
Okay,
future.
let me try to respond. My initial response, besides looking at Tufan and his son, my initial response is, all right, Donna, you raised the question. Now is the time for me to reveal myself. I am the next spokesman for God.
I'm just asking, Rabbi, do you think that
That's not true? I'm going to have to answer your question with absolute seriousness, and it's troubling. In my understanding of the universe, there is no place for an absolute divine being conveying intentional messages to a human being. I don't believe that communication ever occurred anywhere. And if it happens that people claim it today, my response today would be not true. What you are claiming, I will not grant you. Now, that's a statement that only requires a week of sitting in a camp location talking. Whatever it was that Moses was channeling, from my weak and limited perspective, Moses was not channeling an intentional message from divinity. Boy, am I in trouble at 10 o'clock to have this pop up. Okay, how do I explain spiritual events? And I get that. I get the difference between my understanding of the power of a message that is filling my being with whether I can grant to the possessor of that message contact with an intentional, infinite power source. I think I meant what I said, but I don't know what I said. Do I believe that Jeremiah burned with fervor with a message he couldn't set down? Yes. Do I believe that Isaiah burned with fervor, and when he saw visions in chapter 6 of smoke and images and God, did he feel that? Yes. Was it objectively so that these people were getting explicit messages from an infinite power source? Tomorrow went like this, and I'm going to say, I won't even give it, I don't know, tomorrow. My world doesn't permit that.
So you
Examine-
don't, no, thank you, Rabbi.
Chats.
I'm sorry?
Read your chats.
Does that, thank you. An elephant never forgets horses? Yeah? Does that mean that you don't believe in the power of prophets, that they really communicated? I believe totally, Sukasa, in the power of prophets. Totally. Totally, unequivocally, with emphasis. But I don't believe that they are carrying the intentional message of an infinite power source. By intentional message, I mean, let's put it into a technological sense. Somebody hit the send key and Moses got it. I don't think there is someone to hit that send key.
I disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I would say.
Does that mean that you don't believe in God?
Oh, sorry, it's 10 o'clock. Of course I believe in God. But I didn't say anything which helps you understand what I believe when I say that. I don't. I haven't said anything. Oh God, folks, can we do a whole week's retreat or a weekend and let this stuff will dig?
That would be wonderful. How
Stop
great.
being so
Yeah.
happy. Effie, stop being so happy. Stop it.
Yes, an all-day Shabbaton with you would be great.
Yes.
Who said that?
Yeah, let's have a lunch and do a conference.
Okay, right. No. Okay.
Yes.
They said, I do agree, and it's not on any text or anyone's authority. Sukasa, confluence of events. Do you see what's happened with us, folks? We finally touched a raw nerve. We got past the storyline. That is a rare and beautiful moment. And I thank you for that. It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen much, but it just happened here. And I'm going to have to stop. We have to do Kaddish. We will do Kaddish, not have to. We will do Kaddish. But you did it today. You finally touched a living nerve in the material that we're examining. And I think that this should be a moment to be remembered. It's awesome.
7-1.
It's awesome. Okay,
Exodus.
we are stopping. We are going to Kaddish. Feel good about today. Today was very unusual, rare. Now we mentioned those who have passed away during the past month.
Thinking that's what God.
Seymour Cantor, Roger.
Not a God. I agree with.
Okay,
Mother.
please mute. Somebody is talking.
Not me. I'm muted.
Please mute. Thank you. Manley Burton Feinstein, Sean Gose, Larry Levine, Stuart Melvin, Michael Rakoch, Martin Weitz. And those whose yortzites have occurred during this past week: Irving K. Abramsky, Miriam Adler, Steve Ezricken, Charles Benjamin, Philip Bennett, Shirley Bensall, Victor Berman, Morris Brooks, Florence Burrows, Helen Cacciato, Tom Carr, Michael Chait, Carol Cohn, James Butch Colford, Corey Colford, Barbara June Cohen, Jerome Dissner, Joseph Dresser, Howard Dworkin, Daniel Dworsky, Elaine Edelstein, Rosen Torno, Esther Fischler, Yetta Frankel, Fanny Freiselben, Robert Fried, Robert Friedman, Regina Friedman, Herman Gordon, Aubrey Glaser, Martin Glotzer, Joseph Carl Gromberg, Marvin Green, Eva Greenfield, Roberto Grimberg, Edward Gurney. Muluk Halimi, Richard Halligan, Alvin Hamburger, Sidney Harris, Margaret Hartnett, Jack Hirsch, Jane Hirsch, Howard Hoffenberg, Myrna Horn, Marvin Howard, Robert John Ermis, Leland Jackaway, Jerry Jacobson, Gertrude Kaplan, Sidney Leonard Kaplan, Orna Kaplan, Amiran Carney, Howard Kaufman, Marion Kopolov, Glenna Krakoff, Mary Kraut, Sarah Kraut, Anna Lederer, Louis Leon, Max Levin, Samuel Levy, Norman Malin, Theodore Mann, Sidney Matoran, Erwin Michelson, Eunice Michelson, Yvette Mimia, Alexander Nash, Stefan Negrea, Michiko Nickerson, Manna Einhorn Pearl, Bernard Flug, Lillian Pincus, Alice Pollitt, Rona Berman, Pullman, Lillian Rappaport, Ella Reese, Selma Reinstein, Anita Repol, Harry Rex, Patricia Oppenheim, Levin Rice, Irving Rodner, Margot Rothstein, Rolla Rubin, William Rubin, Judy Rudman, Javier Salinas, Raphael Salinger, Janice Sarnoff, Sharon Schechter, Stuart Schlig, Howard Seidman, David Schaffer, Lillian Seamus, Ella Sherman, Regina Solomon, Leroy Solomon, Raymond Stanley Spiro, Marilyn Sprung, Bruce Stark, Jerome Steyer, Esther Zelinsky Stern, Irving Stokes, Hayward Tamkin, Audrey Traeger, Marion Burton, Florence Victor, Adele Weinstein, Burton Wallner, Dina Yarmus, Byron Zucker. I apologize for names that I mispronounced. If there are other names to be remembered, please speak their names out loud or in your hearts now. We bear in mind as well the names of all of those who died in defense of the United States. We bear in our hearts the names of those who died in defense of the state of Israel. We bear in mind now the names of all of those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. Together. Yitkadal, V'yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Yalma Divrach Irutei, Yamlit Malchutei, V'chayechon Uvyomechon, V'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala Uvizman Kariv, V'imru Amen. V'hei Shnei Rabba, V'varach, V'olam U'omei Omayah, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaler, V'yitalal, Shemed V'yisham, V'richu, Ve'ela Minchol, Irchata, V'shivata, Tushbachata, V'nechemata, Da'amiran B'alma, V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shlama Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'yal
Israel.
Amen. Oseh
Shalom.
Hu Ya'aseh
Shalom.
Aleinu V'yal Kol
Israel.
Amen.
Amen.
May God, who makes peace in the high places, make peace in our hearts, make peace in our homes, make peace among all the families and nations of earth. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen.
folks, Shabbat Shalom. Thank
Shabbat
you.
shalom.
Thank
Shabbat
you.
shalom. Thank you.
Love everybody. I guess I asked a good question.
Incredible. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Shalom. Shabbat shalom.